Hello everyone, it's Marc Cervantes, and this week's episode, which is episode number 6 of Tales of an Essential Service Provider. Well, this week not much news, but there is some significant announcements that were being made. One of the first ones I'm going to start with, the Chicago Housing Solidarity Pledge. Mayor Lightfoot, during one of her announcements, said that certain companies like Bank of America, also Chicago Association of Realtors, were taking certain pledges. Some of the highlights of this pledge, which is not mandatory, is that there be a grace period for renters not to pay rent, that there be no late fees, and that the parties would work on a repayment plan. Now, there's been nothing that is going to help the landlords regarding this, but this alleged pledge that companies are signing are moving towards a direction where everybody can come up with some solutions as to tenants not paying rent. Once again, I don't see any solutions for landlords. Forbearances, in my opinion, really don't work, but we'll see how this plays out with regards to it. Remember, it's a pledge and not necessarily a requirement. The other thing that came out, which was interesting, was that the CFPB had stated that the mandatory 3-day waiting period for certain TRID requirements was not necessarily needed anymore. So it used to be where a buyer would sign a final closing disclosure. There would be a 3-day waiting period, which would include some Saturdays, and then you could close. This week, that was lifted, so we'll see how that comes into practice. If it's been completely lifted, so theoretically, if a client signs a closing disclosure in the morning, can they close that afternoon? We'll have to see. Other things that I noticed this week are that there is a lot of title companies now, almost the majority of them, are requiring face masks. Today's May 1st. The state of Illinois is requiring face masks for any areas where you can't get 6 feet of social distancing. So the title companies are taking on that. So if you have a closing, you're actually physically going to it, remember to bring a face mask. The title companies I was at this week had extra face masks. I'd been wearing one anyways. So just to let you know if you're physically going to any of those closings. Another thing that we found out this week is that the recorder's office is going to continue being closed until May 30th. And a announcement made by Mr. Moody, the recorder, he had mentioned that they are going to make some finagling of how they're going to do this work. Before today, on their website, they had asked that anybody wanted to record anything, send it and mail it in. Nobody had been working on those, to my knowledge, because we have a condo project that we had mailed out over a month ago that still hasn't been recorded. The good news is, if you remember in one of my other tales, we talked about condos not being able to be closed. The good thing about it is lenders and title companies are closing on non-recorded declarations for brand new condos and townhomes. So now it's just a matter of the recorder recording those documents so that the title companies can finalize whatever it is during closing they need to do. And with regards to that, we're able to record quick claims and things like that through some of the title companies that we work at. So we've been able to do that. So if you have any quick claim work, give us a call. And then lastly this week, what are we going to stream? We haven't started it yet, but tonight will be a good date. We're going to start for All Mankind. It's a series on Apple Plus. We'll let you know how it's going. So if you guys have any comments or questions or observations in the legal market in the Chicagoland area, feel free to put it down in the comments. It's been great to talk to you, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you very much. Marc Cervantes, Cervantes, Chen & Prince.